Meal scheme, now renamed PM Poshan, is the Education Ministry's second largest student-centric welfare scheme. Budget 2023 allocates 11,600 crore rupees to this scheme for FY24. But experts are worried that this outlay is lower than last year's revised estimates. CNBC TV 18's Kiran Khatri reports that concerns also surround the quality of the food and the implementations, since when adjusted for inflation, the allocation has been reducing significantly over the years. Take a look.
7-year-old Sonakshi's father leaves for work at 7 a.m. every day, and there's no one else to cook for her and her 2 younger siblings. So they go to school on an empty stomach and rely on the government's midday meal scheme. Sometimes their teachers let them eat earlier than other students.
They are among about 12 crore children covered under the PM Poshan scheme. The scheme is touted to be one of the world's largest free school meals programs. The allocation, though, in this year's budget has been reduced to 11,600 crore rupees from the FY23 revised estimates of 12,800 crore rupees.
Experts say the bigger concern is that in real terms, when adjusted for inflation, there has been a sustained decline in this allocation over the past few years.
9 years ago in 2014-15, the budget for midday meals was more than 13,000 crores. And today it's less than 12,000 crores. That's in money terms. So in real terms, it's about 40% less today if you take into account the price increases. It's about 40% less today than 9 years ago. And that is really the concern, that it's becoming more and more difficult for the schools to provide a nutritious meal because the budget is so small.
But the government points out that this year's budget allocation is 13% higher than the allocation in Budget 2022. The Ministry of Education has also told Parliament, and I quote, "The allocation is likely to be sufficient for the implementation of the scheme with existing norms during 2023-2024, end quote. But experts are still concerned. In October last year, the government hiked the cost per midday meal per child to 5 rupees and 45 paise for primary classes and to 8 rupees and 17 paise for upper primary classes. This was a 9.6% hike and came after a 2-year gap. The Centre for Policy Research says this hike did not account for a 24% rise in food inflation between April 2020 and October 2022, and that the meal cost per child should have been raised to over 6 rupees for primary classes and above 9 rupees for upper primary classes to account for inflation. Organizations like the Akshaya Patra Foundation, which supply midday meals to government schools, receive grains from the Food Corporation of India and cash subsidies from the centre and state governments. Their average meal cost per child is more than 12 rupees. So they rely on private donors to make up any shortfall.
We get 6 rupees 65 paisa from the Government of India and the various state governments in the form of cash subsidy and grain subsidy. So this contributes to about 54% of our total running expenditure per meal, and the balance, 46%, Akshaya Patra raises from various corporates, trusts, foundations and individuals.
Also, the cost of the scheme is split between the centre and states, and the central funds are released in 2 installments. But this release has been delayed.
We've seen there was some technical difficulty, and as a result, the ad hoc grant couldn't be released. So no funds were released under the scheme in the first quarter. And again, when we do this analysis, by December 2022, only 52% of the funds had been released under the scheme. And only 5 states had received 60% of their funds.
Experts believe that unless the budget allocation for the PM Poshan scheme is increased significantly, the quality of meals provided to children will suffer, especially in terms of nutrition. In Mumbai, Kiran Khatri.
And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Business 360.